Okay, we're at 12:30 almost. I'm going to try to finish this in half an hour if I can, inshallah. It's already time for Dhuhr. We want to go for Dhuhr prayers soon, inshallah. And I believe you have a lunch invitation that you've all been invited to, if I'm not mistaken. That's what Brother Zuhair told me. So this last session, I'm going to try to keep it short and fast. Ideally, I would like to spend at least an hour on it, but given the lack of time, we'll do it this way. Again, back to that same verse. Very important. That's why I ask you to look at it again. Wisdom, inspiring speech, reason, using rationale, using good arguments. 1 + 1 is always 2. Can't be 1 + 1 is 4. Don't ask people to take a leap of faith unless if it's absolutely and utterly necessary. But give them evidence, give them proof, give them ways, build up. That's what this verse is telling you. Also have humility. Moving on. Some general tips for da'wah. Okay, first thing. Everything is by intention. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Everything is by intention. If your intention is to go get married, then that is what you get rewarded for. If you make the journey to get married, if you make the journey for this deen, then you get rewarded for it. So your da'wah, if it is there so that people say, oh, he's such a great sheikh, he's such a great da'i, he's such a good Muslim, look at him, he's doing great work, you'll get rewarded for it in this dunya. People will talk about you. In the akhirah, you will not get it. First thing is intention. So you have to keep on cleansing your intention. And you have to do it all the time. Because it's very easy to feel really good. I'm so good, I'm something, man. So intention, very important. Can you teach anything to anybody if you don't know it yourself? No. Convey this message even if it is with one ayah. Right? But if you don't even know that one ayah, what are you going to convey? Nothing. So knowledge has to be grounded in knowledge. You have to know in order to teach. You can't really teach, you can't invite, you can't educate, you can't inform without knowing it yourself. So knowledge is very, very important. Wisdom. First you listen. In any situation, you listen. You take in the information. Using computer terminology, it's all the different ways in which you put data in. Right? Input. So first is input, before you have output. What is the next thing after input? Processing. What is processing? Learn. And understand. Right? One way of defining wisdom is knowing what to say, when to say, how to say. It's also what not to say, when not to say, why not to say. All these are part of wisdom. So wisdom, knowledge is there. Okay? But knowledge does not mean you go and just, verbal diarrhea. Go ahead and just give them everything, just spit it out. No. You got to have wisdom behind it. So somebody comes to your masjid, to your mosque. It's a young person who's tattooed, got an earring, maybe wearing a horrible t-shirt. What are you going to tell the brother? He's a Muslim, wearing shorts, for the first time in the masjid. What will you do? No, brother, you can't pray. Haram. Look at you, the way you're dressed. Go.
I will welcome. Welcoming him.
Wisdom means welcoming him. Wisdom means saying, okay, fine, no problem, go ahead, pray. Don't judge him. And maybe get a chance. Invite him. A few times he's come over. Say, brother, if you wear longer shorts, it'll be better. People will not stare at you the way they are. Don't tell him it's haram. Don't tell him it's wrong. That's wisdom. Slowly, slowly. Knowing what to say. If a friend of yours comes along and says, I've done a horrible thing. I have a girlfriend. And she's Filipino. Or she's Ethiopian or something like that. And I'm worried I did something wrong and all. What are you going to judge that person? That's wisdom, you see? How you deal with that situation. Every situation is different. Listen, learn, understand. In medical terms, what are you doing?
Treat.
No, before you treat, what do? Diagnose. Right? You can't treat. Don't go ahead and give amoxicillin before you know what it is, right? Correct? So first you need to examine the patient. Take a history down. Go through the interview. Okay, what is it? Is it hurting here? Yes, it is. Why is it hurting? Because you keep on hitting yourself here. So of course it'll hurt, right? Tell him to stop hurting himself that way. But you can only prescribe once you know what the ailment is. And you have to keep on adjusting your treatment based on the response that the patient is giving you. Right? Allergic reaction, you need to change the drug. You need to stop what you're giving. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Using computer terminology. Input, process, then output. If your input is not good and you're processing there's something wrong, your output will definitely be bad. So, clear, understood, wisdom. Moving on. Practice what you teach or what you preach. If I don't pray, I can't tell other people to pray. I have to pray. I have to believe first, because it'll be obvious. People that you reach out to, if you don't really believe in those things and you talk to them about them, they're not going to sink in. People will see through you, and Allah will make sure that they see through you. So, first impressions. You're already tired, it's been a long night, you've been studying for exams. Okay, next day morning you come to the masjid and you look like a total wreck. The first person that you meet, the tourists that you meet and all, what impression are you creating there? Okay, so you did not brush your teeth this morning. You did not comb your hair nicely, you got some serious issues with that armpit. The moment you raise your hands like this and everybody goes, oof, man, get away from me. That's all first impressions, right? Be smart. Doesn't make a difference. If you wear a thobe, make sure your thobe is clean. If you wear a suit, make sure it's proper. If you wear shirt and pant, whatever it is, depending on the scenario. I remember one time going to a school, high school, and me and another brother, we were in America. This brother wore a tie and a suit and everything. And I felt I'm going to a school. I wore jeans and a t-shirt. Who do you think related to the students more? Jeans and t-shirt. I was able to talk to them and leave a good impression with them. Because my audience at that time was that group of 20, 25 kids. They were half my age. But I wanted to relate to them. Now, I'm not going to dress in tight jeans and tight t-shirt, that everything is visible. No. I'm going to wear baggy jeans and baggy shirt. Might not be totally in fashion. And I can even use that as an excuse to talk about, break the ice. I don't really know fashion of today. Maybe I can talk about modesty and all in clothing. And I use that as an excuse to talk about that. But you see, first impressions are very, very important, because first impressions is what people leave. When they leave you, that's what they leave with. Okay, keep it simple. This is something that I cannot overemphasize. At the beginning of this session, I told you that I'm going to give you a lot of information. I don't normally do that. But the reason I chose to give you a lot of information is because Brother Zuhair told me that you guys are all very, very smart. And I agree with that you are, mashallah, very, very smart. Alhamdulillah. So, based on that, I'm giving you a lot of information. Ordinarily, I would do this session over a longer period of time. But I want you, when you are reaching out to people, delivering the message, you keep it simple. Just think for a moment that if you walked into a temple and they're telling you about their deen, their way of life, and they start throwing words out at you. Now for a moment think, people are coming to the masjid, they want to know about Islam. Assalamu alaikum, already 3 words there, they don't know what they mean. MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Inshallah. Okay, what is this guy talking about? Everything is Allah, Allah, Allah. What does this mean? Okay, they say, Salah, Zakah, Hajj, Saum, all these words. What do these words mean? Use words that people understand. Keep it simple, keep it short, keep it easy. Okay? You're not there to convert. We talked about this before, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much. You know that. Your job is not there to convert, it is to convey. Moving on. More tips. Be gentle, be honest, be sincere. These are very basic things. All of us know them. But I'm just reminding you, myself and you all, you have to love Allah's creation in order to be able to reach out to them. If you think the person that you're reaching out to is dirty, how are you going to relate to that person? You have to have genuine affection. These are all Allah's creation. Think about it. Think about it for a moment. Okay? Every one of us is Allah's creation. We are the best of Allah's creation, which means even a drunk on the street is still the best of Allah's creation.
Right.
And we don't know what standing that person has in the eyes of Allah. Maybe that person is better than the biggest sheikh that we can meet. But yet, just imagine when you meet some president or some minister or some big sheikh that you really admire, how do you talk to that person?
Humbly, or gentleness.
But why is it that when we talk to some of these laborers, we don't talk that way? Think about it. Yes, brother.
We talk to them, we stand on the same shoes as them. What do we say? Oops. Well, exactly what I mean to say is we're going to their level of understanding.
And what is their level of understanding?
Based on how much simple words that they can understand.
Okay, now by saying that, you've already judged them. You see what you've already done? You've already judged them that their level of understanding is below you. You're already looking down at them. You got to be careful of that. You have to have real affection, real love for people. See, you have to really care about that other person, because if you don't help them, if you don't reach out to them with this message of Islam, maybe, Allah knows best, maybe they will go to hellfire. And you don't want that for them.
Sympathy.
More than sympathy. What you doctors would know as empathy.
Sympathy, it's a real. You feel it like a real.
Yeah, empathy is even more than that. Empathy is where you are in their shoes. But not just empathy. I mean, think about it. When we are told that Allah is Rahman, what's the meaning of Rahman? How big a word is that? It encompasses love. It encompasses far more than that. Those are the qualities that we should have. Those are the virtues that we should have. When we reach out to people, it should be with a lot of love, affection, and a lot of respect and honor, because that person is Allah's creation. That person is the best of Allah's creation. And Allah loves that person, just the way Allah loves us. And just the way we think we are important, I think I'm the most important person in the world. So does that person. A person maybe has a wife, maybe has children, maybe for sure has a mother and father. And that person is the product of generations. Think about it for a moment. Again, using a medical terminology, the genes that that person carries have been coming for generations. He's the culmination, the end point of all that gene pool that was there before him. Right? So, each and every person is important. And we should treat them with that love, that understanding. Next is message of hope. Give people something positive, something they can look forward to. Don't just warn them and put them down and say haram, haram, haram. No. Show them that almost everything is halal. Very few things are haram. Give them something that they can look forward to. If you're positive, they will respond to you more. Give them a message of hope. Start with things that you have in common. Deal with commonalities. You know, if you go in there and you start with the differences, you will never get away from that. But if you think about it for a moment, you know, we have more in common than different. The bulk of the religions, it's almost the same. There's very little differences. The differences, the important differences. I'm not saying they're not important, but don't start with those differences. Start with all the commonality we have. When you think about it for a moment, we're all human beings. We all want to eat. We all want to drink. If you don't eat for a day or two, how will you feel? That's the same way the other person feels. No different. You don't drink for a while and you'll feel thirsty, just like that other person will feel. If it gets too hot, he'll feel hot, you feel hot. Too cold, same way. If you've not had enough sleep, don't sleep for 2 days, see what your condition is. Same with the other person. See how much we have in common already. Just the way that person wants to be appreciated, wants somebody to love him, wants somebody to respect him, treat him well, the way you are. So we have so much in common. In terms of belief, it's the same thing. Everybody wants good. So start with those commonalities. I remember many times when I go to, like if I'm in a corporate setting, I'm dealing with businessmen and everything. One of the first things I'll start off with is talking about taxes. If people are about my age and everything, I'll talk about taxes. This is in America. Here, no taxes. There we have taxes. Right? I'll talk about taxes because everybody talks about taxes. Everybody is upset about taxes. I'll talk about traffic because traffic is a huge issue. And if they're parents like me, I'll talk about raising kids. They're concerned about their kids just the way I am. They're concerned about drugs, they're concerned about alcohol, they're concerned about boyfriends and girlfriends. I am concerned about the same things. Those are the things I'm concerned about. So we talk about those common things before we talk about the differences. So start with commonalities, and don't even have to be about religion, they could be about anything. But you build that relationship with them, have that connection with them. When that connection is established, it's so much easier to provide the information. Avoid arguments. As much as possible, don't get into arguments, because the moment you argue, your ego takes over, you want to win the argument. Now imagine you've got a setting where you're talking to 20 people and you're just constantly arguing. You've had a very good presentation on Islam, but then what are people going to leave with? That argument that you made. So, I'll give you an example. I was in an old age home, a retirement home in northern part of Florida. And over 100 people, almost everybody over the age of 70. I was less than about half their age or so. I'm standing there, made a presentation on Islam. At the end of 45 minutes of a talk and everything, I opened the question and answer. One of the persons stood up, and old man, he quoted Arabic newspapers, and he said this and everything. He wanted to have an argument with me about some political issue about Palestine, Israel and all that. At the end of it, I let him finish 2-3 minutes. And then I said, with all due respect, sir, I have no understanding of these issues. Can I have the next question, please?
Yes.
He wanted to argue more, and I'm saying, please forgive me, but I don't really know much about this. I would love to talk to you later. Maybe you can educate me about these issues, but I really don't know much about them. So I cannot answer one way or the other. Please forgive me. And moved on to the next question. That was done. So avoid arguments. Be ready to say, I don't know. Like this example. Don't make up. Don't make up facts. Don't make up answers. Don't think that you have to answer every question. Be ready to say, I don't know. You ask me a question, I have no clue about it, I'll say, I don't know. Or if I'm not sure about it, I'm not sure exactly what the standing of Islam is on this particular issue, I shouldn't go ahead and spread lies. We do that so often and we don't even think about it. In these phones and everything, you get a WhatsApp message from somebody, it looks like a nice thing and everything, you forward it to somebody else without verifying the truth. You don't verify it, you don't make sure this is the truth. You just go and forward it to the next person. Now you spread lies to 20 people, 30 people without even thinking. We do this all the time. Got to be very careful. We say we don't know, we stick to the truth, what we do know. If we don't know, just say I don't know. Pray, and then pray some more. At the end of the day, hidayah is from Allah. Not only is it hidayah from Allah, but also our own standing in front of Allah. You're like a gardener. You put the seeds in there. You then water them, and all that. That praying that you're doing is the watering that you're doing of those seeds. And then Allah is the one that causes the iman to flourish in that person's heart. Have patience. Nuh alayhi salam, how many years?
950 years.
And what does the Quran say? Day and night. How many people accepted Islam? Not even members of his, not some of his family members even, right? Imagine how much patience that would have required, right? And we talk to one person and that person does not want, that person, what is wrong with that guy? He doesn't even want to understand, I'm telling him something so nicely, he's arguing with me. No patience. Trust Allah. Easy to say, very difficult to do. Trust Allah that whatever Allah's plan is still better than whatever else we can think of. In this world we live in, we are constantly bombarded with information against Islam, people attacking us. We have to trust Allah that Allah has a plan. And in this work of da'wah, very important that you trust Allah. Now let's talk about direct da'wah Direct da'wah is when you are the one who is directly relating to the other person, you're delivering the message. Indirect da'wah, I talked about this earlier today. Indirect da'wah is where you're using some kind of medium, some kind of vehicle to deliver the message, like a book, a pamphlet, a magazine, a video, a website, a WhatsApp message. That's indirect da'wah. Direct da'wah is where you're the one who's directly talking to people. There are two kinds, one-on-one and one with many. One-on-one is where you're talking to one person. You got a tourist in the mosque, you're talking to that person one-on-one. And there are many opportunities. You're traveling on an aircraft, you get the chance to talk to somebody next to you. Somebody walks into the masjid, you get the opportunity. So there are many opportunities. Wisdom, listen, listen, listen. You learn from that person. The more you listen to that person, the more likely that person is going to open up to you. Just like in medicine, you've got to, assess the condition of the patient. The same applies here. Assess the need. What do they need? And based on that need, do you provide a solution? Don't give them too much. You overdose, you're going to kill, right? You have to provide the right amount of a response, proportionate response, a response that is appropriate to what the person asked. The person asked you, where can I get a glass of water, or where can I get some water? And you tell him about Tawheed. Oh, because it's an opportunity for me to talk with this non-Muslim about Islam. Let me go ahead and talk to him. No, the guy asked you, where can I get some water? So take him to where the water is, give him water. Right? Don't tell him about the masjid at that time. Don't tell him about salah at that time. Don't tell him about zakah. When you're already talking about divorce, and the person just asked for a cup of water. Right? Okay. Do not overdose. Don't give too much. If you give too much, you'll scare the person. No information overkill. Do not quarrel, do not fight, do not abuse, do not think that you're better than that person, Patronize, that's what it means. Provide closure. What do I mean by closure? Once you've given some information, give that person the opportunity to get back to you. Leave that person with some information, some way of reaching back to you or finding out more if they want to. A pamphlet, a business card, a website, anything. But make sure it is something that they want. Don't force it on them. Always leave the door open. Don't close it off. Don't end off in such a way that the person will not want to learn more. Provide the opportunity for that person, so leave the door open for more questions. Okay, the second kind is again direct da'wah, but this time you're addressing a larger group of people. You've got a group of tourists that have come to the mosque, you've got a large audience, you're speaking to a big group of people. You need to break the ice. You need to connect with those people, but a large group of people. So you need to somehow get into their minds as fast as possible. This is what is meant by breaking the ice. Establish a relationship, a connection. But you're dealing with a large group of people, it's difficult. So you need to try to gauge where each person is as best as possible, as fast as possible, and establish that connection with them. Establish that bond. Personal demeanor, meaning how do you carry yourself? Are you somebody that they would feel comfortable with or not? Like I gave you the example earlier of dressing in jeans and a t-shirt when you go to a classroom, because the kids there would be able to relate to you. That's what I mean by personal demeanor. Start with things that you have in common. Again, we said this before, I'm repeating it again. Keep it simple, keep it short, engage the audience. These are things that I'm not doing right now, so I apologize for that. But we're trying to do a lot in a short time, but you are to keep it short. You are to keep it simple. Engage the audience, get them involved, have a discussion like we did earlier. I asked you questions, you give me the answers. Get your audience engaged. Let them talk about what they want. Provide venue for more information. Provide a website, provide a phone number, provide an email address, provide a Twitter account, whatever it might be, Facebook page. Indirect da'wah. Remember we talked about segment, target, and position? So think about what angle you're going to use based on once you've segmented, targeted, and put yourself in a particular position with that pizza that you're going to eat. So you need to know the angle, the approach that you're going to have. When you're putting together, indirect da'wah means using a vehicle, like a book, a magazine, a website, a WhatsApp message. So you're using that vehicle to deliver the message. The second thing is inverse pyramid. Start with the most important. You know what a pyramid looks like, right? like a triangle, right, with a big base and a narrow top. The vertex is on top, the base on the bottom. You flip it over. So top the biggest, at the bottom is the smallest. Whenever you're telling any story in media of any sort, you start with the most important thing first. And then you make it less important, less important, less important. Because you don't know if people are going to go through your whole thing. They're going to watch your whole YouTube clip? Maybe not. Are they going to listen to, read your entire message that you've sent? Maybe not. So keep the most important at the top. Lead with the important story. Get it? Keep it simple. I've repeated it a couple of times now. I think it should have sunk in. Keep it simple. No information overkill. Don't overdose. Same thing. Relate to local people and places. If you tell people about something that happened very far away, they will not relate to it. So relate to what is important for them. Provide, again, same thing like before, provide closure, provide information, how they can reach, how they can get more information. You're putting a pamphlet together about something, provide an address at the bottom. Something that they can go back to when they're done with this. Moving on. Indirect da'wah, there's two kinds. There's the paid kind and the free kind. The paid kind is advertising. So very quickly, traditional media is print, radio, TV, film. New media is internet, social media. I'm not going to deal too much with this. Just for you to know that there are these different, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with, just reminding you that these are different kinds of media, and each one of them has their pluses and minuses. So as a community, as a group of people who are doing da'wah, you should be well aware of what these are. Indirect, where you are not paying for it, you get it for free, is called publicity. It's typically related to an event or an incident or something that you put together, an opening of a center, an opening of a new masjid, some event, or if like let's say for example, if it's where tourists are visiting your mosque, that is free. You know, you're getting the opportunity to do that publicity. But sometimes you're not in control, especially if it is something that happened in another part of the world or even in your own community. It's an event that happened, you're not in control. You have to be smart about how to use media. Stick to your message. Keep repeating. Again, this is all related to, I'm not sure if it really works with the community or the da'wah work that you're doing. That's why I'm going through it very fast. If it does, then stop me and I will take more time and explain each one. But my understanding is it's not really your end of things. So that's why I'm going very fast through it. Stick to your message. Make sure that you repeat the message as many times as you can. Do not argue, do not fight. Be consistent, simple, straightforward message. Try to have one person who will deal with media. Don't have a lot of different people, that way you get different messages sent out. Control publicity, what I mean by that is making sure that when you have an event, an incident that takes place, and you've got to make sure that that people in your own community are not going and taking steps around you, that you are the one who's controlling the entire situation. Because if you get somebody who's not trained properly and goes and speaks in front of media, it would have disastrous results for your da'wah efforts in your organization. Communal da'wah, this is what you're about. If you're a group of people that come together, that's what I mean by communal da'wah. It's not one person going, but you're organizing yourself. Now here it's very important that you are organized, that you talk to one another, that you form a group. You have a strong leader, somebody who takes the lead at the front. You have good research, you know what the market is about, you know what the product is about. You've done a good SWOT analysis. You looked at your strengths, your weaknesses as an organization, the opportunities that you have and the threats that you face. Could be visits like mosques, mosque tours that you have. Could be schools, could be labor camps, whatever it might be. You need to standardize the da'wah efforts that you're having, so that all of you are talking the same language. Again, we talked about this before. When I gave you that list of all those terms, this is what I mean by standardizing your da'wah. That all of you are talking the same language. You know, one of you says one thing about Isa alayhi salam, another one says something else about Isa alayhi salam. One says one thing about jihad, another one says something else about jihad. Shouldn't be that way. Everybody's giving the same message. Standardize as much as you can. And again, follow up. Provide closure, provide information. Make sure that you do follow up with people. I'll leave you with a few examples. this is pretty much the end of it. We have 5 more minutes, inshallah. So I'll keep this even short. These are real examples of, alhamdulillah, in the last 20 years, we've had many, many opportunities, many, many examples of da'wah situations and people accepting Islam and everything. I've chosen these 4 for particular reasons to illustrate all the different tips I gave you. I gave you a whole bunch of tips in the art of da'wah, and I also talked about media, indirect da'wah, direct da'wah, and all that. Now these kind of relate to all those different things that we talked about. They kind of bring it together in real life examples. So the first example is about this Hispanic female student. Hispanic is people of Spanish origin, people who speak Spanish as a language. I was invited to a university. There's about 120 students, 130 students or so, and I was asked to make a presentation on Islam. So I stood there, gave a lecture for about 40 minutes, and then kept it open for question answers, another 40 minutes or so of Q&A. There was a class of, I think it was social studies of some sort, but a university class, and the professor had asked me to talk about Islam. So at the end of it, question answer time, and different questions came up, and this woman put up her hand, and she was Hispanic of Spanish origin. She was very poorly dressed, if you know what I mean. Like she had like very little clothing on. So she's asking me questions, so I answer, and she asks me more questions. She keeps on asking questions, one after the other, and I try to answer as many questions as possible. At one time she says, "Look at me, I'm beautiful. You know, you say as a Muslim that I should cover myself." Ya Rahmatullah. Why should I cover myself? I'm so good. I look good. You know, look at me. I'm beautiful. You know, she says it like that. And I explained to her and everything. Eventually the professor, because she kept on asking questions, and she wasn't giving others the opportunity to ask. So the professor stops and says, "Can we get others to ask questions?" So she sat down. Others asked questions. When the lecture and the question answer session was over, she came to me. Professor's next to me, she's coming, she comes to me and she's asking more questions. I'm going up against the wall because this sister keeps coming closer and closer to me. Finally, I'm right up against the wall, you know, and she's still asking me questions, and she's right here. I'm feeling very uncomfortable. The professor leads me away and says, you know, maybe some other time. She still has more questions to ask, and I try as much as possible. You know, brother, sister, she's not well dressed and everything. I was feeling very uncomfortable. So I went away. On Friday, went to the masjid, I'm parking my car, and somebody says hi to me, a woman. Now normally women don't say hi to the men in the masjid parking lot. That's not normal practice. So I'm surprised, I look. I'm worried also that my wife is with me. And I look, and it's the same woman, this Hispanic woman. And she's got a scarf on her head. She's not as badly dressed. She's still wearing, you know, Western outfit, a skirt and all, but it's a bit of a longer skirt, not something short. I said, "Oh, hi." She says, "I've come to check this place out." I said, "Good. Okay, excellent." For the next 8 weeks, I see her every Friday, and every Friday she's more dressed. She's got better clothes. The 8th week, she again talks to me. I said, "I really like this thing. I think I'm going to go for it." And she accepted Islam. Alhamdulillah. The point is that sometimes you'll get people who will be very, very annoying. They will ask you the most difficult questions, and they will want to ask more and more questions. The reason they are asking those questions is because something inside them has snapped. Remember when we talked about SWOT, there's a vacuum there. They have a vacuum in their hearts and minds. And this world that they live in doesn't make sense. You know, and what you are saying is kind of making sense, but not really. So they're asking the question, why? Why? You know, and they want more and more answers. Those are the people who are the closest to Islam. They are the ones most likely to accept Islam. So you have to be patient, and you have to understand, and you have to provide the appropriate response to them. Second example is of a radio talk show host. After 9/11, in our community in Florida, we had a lot of people who were against Islam, some who were for, many against. And there was this one particular radio show host. His name was Shannon Burke. And he had a radio show every morning during drive time from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. He would have a show that he's talking on the radio. And after 9/11, he started attacking Islam and Muslims in that show. Now, as a community, our response was always that if somebody is in the media, we're not going to respond to that person, because they control the media. So if we call that person up or end up on his show, all we are going to do is give him more ammunition, more ways of attacking us. So the best way for us is, this guy is barking, let him bark. He will stop barking at some point in time. And just the way an animal, a dog, keeps barking, just leave him. A few weeks later, it will die off. And if we respond to him, he'll become bigger and bigger. Now that's our standard attitude to it, because they control the media, we don't. They can shut us off anytime they want. If we call in the radio show and we say certain things, we're trying to defend Islam, he doesn't like it, he'll just turn it off and continue saying what he wants to say. But we will give him more ammunition, so we keep quiet. Some members of our community did not feel that way. They felt like, this guy, we should attack him. We should go on his air. So initially, this guy allowed them. And he's smart, he's a radio guy, he's been in the business for years. He knew that this is a way for him to increase his rating. So he let these guys on the show. And initially he was very nice to them, but then he became very nasty with them. And he started attacking even more. And these guys were totally butchered on the radio show. His audience went from about 150, 180,000 to over 400,000 within 3 months. He became one of the most popular radio show hosts in all of the southern part of the US. The Southeast United States, he became the most popular radio show host within a few months because of him attacking Islam. All right-wing neocons, George Bush kind, all of them listening to him. It got to a point where he now specifically attacked our community, said this particular mosque, there is a school there, and in the school they're training terrorists. Now it became too much. He's now creating a threat for us, where our security, the security of our children, is at stake. So what we did, the Imam of the community and myself, the two of us arranged through a friend's friend to meet this radio show host for lunch. So we organized a lunch with him. We took him out to a nice restaurant. We sat with him and said, okay, what's the problem? He said a whole bunch of different things. We said, okay, fine. Can you give us the opportunity? You talked about our mosque and our school being a terrorist organization. Give us an opportunity to show you. So he was open-minded enough. He said, okay, fine. So he came to the mosque the next day. He spent the whole afternoon. He originally came for half an hour. He spent like 7 hours with us. Went and saw the school. Went to the classrooms, the kindergarten, little kids shaking his hands. I said, these are the terrorists you're talking about? Look what we're teaching them. Go, look at our syllabus. Open all the books that we have. Look in the cupboards. We've got guns in there. Check them out. This man was so embarrassed. That day, he just completely turned around. Instead of being an enemy of Islam, he became a proponent of Islam. We became good friends. But he told me something very important. He says, Muhammad, the reason I was like this is because I didn't have any Muslim friends. We became friends, me and him. I'd invite him over for dinner at my place. He invited me to his place. He started coming regularly to the mosque to play volleyball with us. Once a week we had volleyball, and he loved volleyball, so he would come and play with us. He didn't become Muslim, or maybe he did, Allah knows best. But at that time he had not accepted Islam. But this man became somebody who goes on the air and speaks positive about Islam. And what he said was that I now have a friend. I have friends who are Muslim. I understand what you're all about. He goes, why aren't you people out there in the community? Why aren't you out there playing soccer with our kids? Be with us, talk to us. If you know us and we are here, if you don't reach out to us, how will we know what you're all about? When you don't know something, you think the worst of it. The moment you put on the light, everything is bright and nice and looks nice. But if it's dark, you're scared. So we were very scary for him. But the moment we opened the door for him the right way, with wisdom, with hikmah, it changed everything. The third is Katrina.
The name of the host again?
Shannon Burke. I don't have time, but I actually have an interview of him on the air of what he said about Islam. In one of my films, I've put him in that film. So next one, Katrina. Remember back in, I think it was 2004 or 2005, I think it was, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans.
Louisiana.
And most of Louisiana and the southern part of Georgia and all parts of northern parts of Florida all were massively hit by Hurricane Katrina. One of the biggest natural disasters the US has ever had. Now, at that time, when this hurricane hit, many parts of Louisiana were totally flooded. New Orleans was totally underwater. And there were entire sections of the city that were not accessible by people. What we did as a community at that time is said that we need to help these brothers and sisters of ours. Whether they are Muslim or not doesn't make a difference, but we need to help them and reach out to them. So we put together a team of doctors. We have a large number of physicians in our community, health workers, volunteers of different sort, and we put a convoy of one 40-foot truck and a van with people. And in the truck we put, container truck, we put inside it food, medicines, clothing, those, the things that they use to cut the trees with, power saws and axes. Because what happens in a hurricane is the trees fall on entrances, on cars and everything, and people are trapped. So you need to carry heavy duty equipment to free those people. So as our convoy was going towards Louisiana, we were stopped halfway through. We were not able to go all the way to New Orleans. They stopped us, and the police said that the rest of the roads are inaccessible. You can't reach those. So he said, we have, supplies, equipment and everything. We can help these people. They said there's another community in this side, small towns that nobody's been able to reach them, but you can go there. The roads are a bit safer. So our convoy went to this tiny little town. We get to the town and the place is deserted. It's a little tiny American town. Main street, houses on both sides, and the place is totally devastated. Water up to about your knees and all. Trees all over the place, cars broken down, everything looks horrible. And nobody in the streets, nobody in the houses. Go and knock on the houses, there's nobody there. So wondering what happened. We keep driving and we come to a church. That's where there's some noise going on. So we realized everybody's in the church. So now imagine this, picture this, right? A group of Muslim brothers, beards and all, some of them with kufis, hats, caps, okay? They are walking in, and because the place was, with trees and all fallen, some of them are carrying those power saws, some have axes, and they're breaking it down and they go inside into a church where most of these are Southerners. They hate Muslims, they are against Muslims. Southern Baptist Church. Southern Baptists not only hate Muslims, we are at the bottom of their thing, they hate other Christians. They think all those Christians are going to go to hell. And of course, Muslims are going to go to the bottom of the hell. Right? So these Southern Baptists, they're sitting in the church, and many of them, they're sitting on top of the pews, the places where they have, you have chairs and then you have like little desks. They're sitting on top of that because the place is flooded. And they're all praying, Jesus and all that kind of stuff, right? Send us some saviors. And this is these churchgoers afterwards telling us that they were praying, and this bunch of Muslims carrying these axes and all walk in. A bunch of terrorists come instead of the angels that they expected. Right? And we cleared the place, we cleaned up the place, we helped clean the church, we gave them food, medicine and everything. And they were shocked that Muslims are doing this. So those terrorists were actually angels that came to them. And no, nothing to talk about Islam. We're not here to teach you anything. We're just here to help you. You are our brothers and sisters. We're here to help you. That's it. Very powerful message. Extremely powerful. And this happened on numerous occasions. We had other occasions of similar sort that happened. And people accepted Islam. But my purpose of telling you this story is your actions are much louder than your words. If you act like the Prophet ﷺ, if you act like the Sahabas, if you act like a real Muslim, you don't have to even say a word. Not a single word from your mouth, and the whole world will come to Islam. Because we are Muslim. We've forgotten to be Muslim. And that's why we have no impact. Our words are meaningless. They're useless. They don't carry any weight. Because we are not behaving like Muslims. Last story I have is of this old lady, and this is the one I'm going to end off with. Yes?
Before you continue, I think I have seen a video about this Quadir church.
Possibly.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure if you guys made this or somebody made it.
I think somebody else made this, but I know the story has circulated and people have dramatized it in different ways.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, yeah. But this is a real thing that happened with this church in parts of Louisiana. Anyway, the last story is about an old lady. This is a friend of mine. By profession, he's an imam. And he had this habit of regularly visiting a hospital in the area that he lived in. He lived in Washington, D.C., and he used to go regularly to the different hospitals, just to go and visit the sick. So one time he was in the hospital and he came across this old woman. She's hooked up to all kinds of, like a respirator, and there's some, an IV in her and all that sort of stuff. She's lying there, very old. So he saw her and he passed by her. She was asleep, maybe in a coma, he didn't know. So he went the next day and he saw her again. But there was, other patients had people visiting them during visiting hours. This woman had nobody. She was all alone. So he asked the nurses there at the nurse station, what's the story about this woman? Who is she? So they said that she's brought in from an old age home. And what about her family? No, nobody's visited her. So what's the story with her? She's got cancer. Last stage, terminal. She's here, maybe a few days, a week or two, she may die. So nobody's visited her? No. So this brother went and sat at the foot of her bed. The bed is there, she's lying there. He went and just sat there. For about an hour or two, he just sat there. This woman, she woke up, opened her eyes, saw him, closed her eyes again, and everything. The next day, he came back again. This time, he didn't sit at the foot of the bed. He went and sat closer near her head. And he held her hand. She's an old woman, 80s, don't worry, it's okay. No khalwa issues there. Okay, he held her hand. And she's looking at him, opens her eye, looks at him. Then she's asking him, who are you? But before he says anything, the first thing he says is, Mommy. For some reason, the brother tells me that he says, Mommy. Why did he say those words? He doesn't know up until now. Allah inspired him to say, Mommy. The moment he said that, this woman started crying. And she goes, the last 30 years, I have not heard these words. I have children, and I think I even have grandchildren, but they have not called me Mommy. I have not heard these words. And she's crying. And she's asking him, who are you? He says, I'm a Muslim. So what is a Muslim? So he tells her about the oneness of Allah. He tells her about the Prophet ﷺ. And she says, I like this. How do I become a Muslim? He says, say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. What does that mean? He says, I believe I testify there is only one God, Allah. And I testify that Muhammad is the man. She goes, I believe this. And she says, she took the kalima. She recited the shahadatain. She accepted Islam. He talked to her a little bit. When he was getting late, he left. He says, I'll come back in the afternoon. He goes back in the afternoon. And the bed is empty. There's nobody there. So he asked the nurse, what happened? She goes, the woman died.
She died.
The woman died. She passed away. Brothers, think about this. This is something serious. Allah sent this brother at the right time, and this sister, her whole life, whatever she was, and she accepted Islam, and a few hours later she died. Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. So I want to leave you with these kind of stories, you see. This is what we are here for. This is the work that we are engaged in. You are the best nation raised for humankind because you invite people to good and forbid evil, and you are amongst the righteous. You're doing the work of the prophets. You are doing the work of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Don't forget that. But do it the best that you can with the right intentions. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. If you have any questions, we can take some, inshallah. But this is it. You're done. You're free to go for lunch. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.